Hello, this is Mike from Dimensional Walking, and today we're going to call our episode UFOs and Demon Soul Taker, San Luis Valley, Colorado. Okay, so I lived in New Mexico, for probably 12, 13 years or so. And of course, New Mexico has a lot of really interesting stuff there, a lot of paranormal stuff, a lot of UFOs, just about anything you can think of. I guess that's why they called it the Enchanted State, Land of Enchantment. I think it's the correct term. But there was a place where we used to go that was in southern Colorado, and that was called San Luis Valley. Okay? And that valley is loaded with really interesting things. Okay? Lots of UFO sightings, lots of high strangeness. Okay? Now, the valley has a really unique thing about it. It is the largest alpine valley in the world. It sits between, the San Juan Mountains on the west and the San de la Cristo Mountains on the east, and some of the mountain peaks on the San de la Cristo Mountains are over 14,000 feet. So the contrast between the valley floor and these high mountains is pretty spectacular. Also has some other interesting things in the valley. They have the national, I think it's called the National Sand Dunes Park, and it is kind of like over on the side of the San Monte Cristo Mountains, and it's an area where the wind blows across the valley. Now the valley is like it's about 72 miles wide and 122 miles long. So that wind gets started on the westerly wind gets started on the west side and blows to the east side. And the area also, let me just let you know how huge this is. It's like 8,000 square miles of area that the valley makes up. So it's a very big valley. So as the wind gets started and it blows hard, it picks up dust and probably some sand and, picks that up and deposits it in this kind of corner right up against the mountains. And it drops it in the mountains because the mountains, of course, stop or slow down the winds, I guess I would say. So it's pretty spectacular, these mountains. And as you drive into the middle of the valley and you look off and you see these huge sand dunes, and I think there's even a couple palm trees in front of it or something. It's really, really kind of a spectacular view. And the sand dunes are several hundred feet high, and some of them are, anyways. And it's really cool. So, anyways, they not only that, but on in the San Monte Cristo Mountains, right at the edge of the valley, there is a Buddhist monk sanctuary, or a bunch of kind of small temples over there, and that is really cool. If you ever get a chance, that's a great place. I think they still have tours there, and it was really spectacular. And the views from their place into the valley is really great. So, anyways, let's see what else is. Oh, in the middle of the valley, there's a place called the UFO Watchtower. Okay, what is very cool about that is we happen to know the people that own it, own the Watchtower. We've been there a couple of times. They do, I think once a year, they used to do like a lecture series on UFOs and things, and they bring in speakers from all over the United States. I'm not 100% sure if they do that anymore. But anyways, there is a place, they have an observatory, a place like you can get up on and you can look at the valley, and especially in the evening or night, just to watch for UFOs. And many people do see the UFOs there. It's pretty interesting spot. And then, of course, there's this gamut of UFO stories, of sightings and just all kinds of high strangeness in the valley itself, and on either side of the mountain ranges on both sides. So, anyways, today I'm gonna tell you a couple interesting stories, and both these stories come from an old friend who has passed. We call her Sister Wolf, and she lived in the valley as a child. I think she still had parents, she still had relatives there when I knew her, so she would travel up there. And she'd bring back some really interesting stories. And she had stories that would go back, for, 50, 60, 70 years, actually. Some really interesting stories. I remember when she told me the one story when she was a kid where they had kind of like a swampy area behind their house, and they would have like these small dinosaurs, she'd call them, would come out of the swamp. And she described them just like dinosaurs. And she said, as far as I know, they were dinosaurs. She never had a picture or anything. I think this is way back, probably in the 50s. But she talked about it, and she said it definitely were dinosaurs. So, but anyways, let me tell you two other stories she told me I thought was pretty interesting. She talked about this one story where this gentleman had flown in back home he had a home in San Luis Valley, and I guess he flew into Denver or something like that. And on the way driving back from Denver to San Luis Valley, it's a pretty good ride. And he said he suddenly spotted some bright headlights. Now this area, when you get into San Luis Valley, it's, at night it would be pretty, I don't want to say scary, but pretty desolate. Okay, there isn't a lot of traffic or anything in the valley, so especially at night. So anyways, he sees this headlight, and he assumed initially that it was just another car. And so anyways, because it's kind of rare on the highway to see the cars or anything, he kind of slowed down a little bit. Then he realized it was a UFO. And he said, to see a UFO in the valley was not unusual. It was quite usual, actually. But this one was different because it basically took control of his vehicle and brought it to a complete stop right on the highway, and the UFO was right there. And two aliens appeared in the front of his car, okay? And they stared at him, didn't really do much, and they had like four fingers on their hands, and they put their hands on his hood, and it left a print, actually, he said, on his hood, and I guess it disappeared in the sometime in the morning during the daylight hours. He said they were the typical grays in many ways. He said they had a big head and big eyes, except for, this is the really strange part, and I never heard this before. They said they had dog legs. He said they had dog legs, which is extremely unusual. I had never heard that, and I've done tons of interviews of abductees and contactees, and never heard the dog legs thing. And maybe you have. And if you've heard about dog legs on gray aliens, please let me know. Okay. Anyway, so they stood up, and basically that was the whole event itself. And that's why I wanted to repeat it to you, was because of the dog legs. Now, chances are, I'm going to tell you, since he had such a close encounter, chances are he was abducted, and they took him somewhere underground, or they took him on the ship. God only knows what happened after that. So anyways, and he never was able to, he told no more of the story than what you just heard. Anyways, I thought it was pretty interesting. But there's many of these type of stories in San Luis Valley. That's kind of my point in having this video. Then there was another one. She said this story was way back in 1949, and when she lived in a little town called Sargent in San Luis Valley, a small little town. And this is about, I'm not really sure, I think this was about a friend and a sister. Her name was Maria, and I think the friend, or the person she's initially talking about, is named Tony. And they were trying to remember a time when their father had gotten beaten up. So let me tell you the rest of the story here, okay? So one night, apparently the dad came back, and it wasn't unusual for him to kind of come back on weekends or whatever from probably the local bar or whatever, and he was drunk, okay? And he began fighting with his mom. So his mom was hollering and screaming and carrying on, and told him to go sleep in the barn and sleep it off. So he stumbled out, and he was screaming and carrying on, and suddenly they heard him screaming, "Help me, help me, I'm getting beaten up." And of course, at first they said, well, okay, whatever. And they looked outside, and they could see was a black shadow of another man beating the dad up. And so they ran out there, and the shadow disappeared, and they were able to get their dad back into the house. He was all scratched up, extremely scratched, which was pretty odd, considering typically if two guys fight, they typically don't get scratched. Nobody gets really scratched up, but not like this anyways, for sure. So the dad claimed that he got beat up. He got beat up or whatever. He was beaten up by the devil. At least he saw the devil in this, whatever it was, the shadow person, I guess. And he said it was half human and half animal and had claws like a devil. Okay? So he called his father, and his father happened to be a medicine man. I think they were Native Americans, and the father was a medicine man. So he came from Nevada, and he prayed over him for, I guess it was 10 months or so. And he stopped drinking. The dad stopped drinking. But as soon as the father left to go back, I guess he started drinking again. So I guess the devil didn't scare him that bad. But the father did say something. He said he finally thought that, well, this is what his father, the dad's father, or I guess the kid's grandfather, said, that this was a demon soul taker, is what he called him. Or well, I'm going to add this, or a skinwalker, or this maybe had been a skinwalker event. As you may know, the Four Corners are just loaded with skinwalker type, the states in the Four Corners, and that would be Utah and Colorado and New Mexico and Arizona. And, I've lived in 3 of those 4 states and visited Colorado, of course, and I had heard numerous conversations about skinwalkers, and I've written about them. They're pretty amazing stories, actually, but I do believe in skinwalkers because of all the people that were close to me that have had the experiences. Anyways, that's it. I hope you enjoyed. If you've had any of those type of demon soul taker type adventures or encounters or whatever you want to call them, please let us know. Either you can send a comment here, or you can go ahead and send us an email at dimensionalwalking@gmail.com. And you have a great day. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.